What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Day Sniper Podcast. I'm your host, Caylen Wojcik, and what a hell of a place to do a podcast introduction. We are out here in beautiful Wilbur, Washington, and we're filming a segment of our new online training course, the Wind Reading Blueprint. So more on that later, but let's get into this episode. I would love to introduce our guest today, and it is Mr. Corson Piper. So for those of you guys who are in the Northwest and in the precision shooting world, you know who Corson Piper is. Corson has started shooting in 2018 and he has come a long way and really fast. So Corson is really kicking ass in the precision rifle series in the Northwest as well as in the pro series. And I sat down with Corson to pick his brain on what is going on in his head with regard to competitive shooting. And it was a fantastic conversation. I will let you guys get into it right away. So thanks for listening. And as always, make sure that you follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, YouTube, and cruise over to the Modern Day Rifleman Network and see what we got going on over there. It is an awesome community. There are 10,000 shooters just like you who are looking for nothing but good, solid information and a reliable community to bounce ideas off of and help each other grow. So let's get into the episode.
All of the fun things are dangerous, right? As you get older, when you're more resilient as a younger man, it's a way different story. But as you start to get longer in the tooth, the recovery time takes longer, and the fun things, like if I go spend a weekend skydiving, like if I go do like 6, 7, 8 jumps a day, yeah, I feel that the next day for sure.
I bet.
Oh yeah, you feel it in your body. You're just sore.
You jump 8 times in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, as fast as, I mean, if you're trying to learn anything, right? Like if you're shooting, right? Like the learning curve is incredibly steep when you have, let's just say you're on the range and I know that I'm going to shoot like 200 rounds a day for 4 days straight, and just that's my whole focus. Your learning curve is going to be pretty steep by the close of day 1. Day 2, day 3, and day 4, you're going to be making big leaps, right? And skydiving is the same way, because the longer separation that you have between, hey, I did this, let's say I'm trying to learn how to sit fly, right? I'm trying to learn how to fly through the sky sitting on my butt, right? Like I'm in a chair just like this. It takes dozens of skydives to make that happen. But if you make like 2 jumps and then you don't jump for a month and then you go make 3 or 4 jumps, you don't jump for another month, like your learning curve is going to be pretty flat.
Sure.
You're just going to be kind of like, oh, I got to get myself back reacquainted with the sky, how this all feels, and get my relaxation back down to a mellow level where I can actually like just like apply what my brain is trying to do. And then it's just, you're like, oh, okay, I almost got it. But then if you're jumping like 8 times a day, like you jump, you experience, you watch the video, you get coached, right back in the plane, let's go do it again. And you're doing it again. You're applying that in the next 45 minutes.
Yeah. There's no rust to knock off there.
Yeah.
You're ready to go. Yep.
And so, yeah, the curve steepens greatly. But yeah, dude, my body will feel it after that. So
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. 'Cause you're using muscles that you don't usually use. And if you're jumping all the time, you're always using those muscles. But if you're not, you're not. Yep. So, but shooting is the same. I think shooting's the same way when it comes to, the repetitiveness and staying in that mix. Like we were talking about at the range, like stress inoculation from just the aspect of shooting itself, like what actually is physiologically happening to us when we're firing a rifle, and your brain receives the input from the recoil and the muzzle blast, like what's going on in that, to just the repetitiveness of the action of the process, right? And inoculating yourself to that and creating those unconscious layers of competence, so that way you're operating on as much unconscious level as you can, because we also know that you can't do that the whole time. There's like only certain things in shooting that we can rely on our subconscious for. The rest of it, we have to be able to switch that off and go to conscious thought, right? I think it's a bounce back and forth. Like somebody asked me once, what was the first thing that I consciously remember or know that I consciously think about when I'm building a shooting position? And for me, it's usually like my first thought is, am I on the right target? That's usually it. But like building the position, orienting the rifle, my body, like establishing my body position, establishing a natural point of aim, checking my natural point of aim, all of that stuff is happening. I'm not thinking about any of that. I'm thinking about, is that the right target? Like, am I setting up on the right target? And then after that, it's wind and the wind hold and all that stuff. So what about you? What's the first thing that you consciously think about?
Yeah, I don't really think about much of that stuff. I mean, first thing I consciously think about. I've already got my wind hold.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that's sped me up a lot for my first shot.
Mm.
I've already made my decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a match setting.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I already know how I'm going to build my position. That just happens, right? Then I look over the scope at the target,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's kind of like, yep, okay, there's my target. Get down in the scope. Yep, still there. Bubbles level. Put the reticle where I've already decided it's going to go, and pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
I used to spend a lot of time, and I guess sometimes if you're at a match with a bunch of switchy wind or something like that, maybe I consciously decide to take a look at what Mirage is doing or something like that before I break the first shot. But most of the time, I've been looking at conditions and sitting there behind the gun is just wasting time, right?
Sure.
Put the reticle where I've decided it needs to go and pull the trigger.
And then whatever happens after that, we're going to respond to it and work through it.
We're going to read and respond. Yep. If it goes in the dirt, we're going to measure it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, okay. That's cool. Now, when you let's talk a little bit. There's many things, like we covered a lot of ground today, didn't we? We covered a lot of ground today. So, there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about. And first things first, we just kind of started bullshitting here, but, Corson Piper from the Pacific Northwest, homegrown
from Alaska.
Oh, you're from Alaska.
Yes, sir.
And what part of Alaska did you grow up in?
Homer, Alaska.
Okay.
That's where I grew up. In
Awesome.
A commercial fishing family.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That I did not know.
Yep.
So when did you talk to me about that? So you grew up in Alaska, Homer, you're growing up on fishing boats and stuff?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was working on a fishing boat when I was 7 years old.
That's awesome.
With the old man. And then I did that. Man, I fished for did a lot of different fish.
Yeah. What kind of fishing did you do?
I crab fished. I fished for halibut. I jigged for cod, seine and gill netted for salmon.
Okay.
Did a lot of different fisheries.
Different stuff, man. That's cool.
And, 1 year we were in Kodiak and right when we were about to start making some money, the engine blew a head gasket. And so I had to start looking for a job and started working on an oil rig in Alaska when I turned 18.
Okay. And so on the oil rig, where that stuff fascinates me. It really does. It fascinates me to the whole process of it. I learned a little bit about it when I worked as a steel fabricator / shop foreman. The business that we were in was liquid cryogenics. So CO2, oxygen, argon, and nitrogen. And so when the fracking thing was huge and the oil field was booming down in the Four Corners, we were sending a lot of product to that area for fracking.
Yeah.
And so I kind of learned a little bit about the process. I knew what oil wells, I knew that was an oil well, but I didn't know how that actually worked. Like, what is the whole process? And so talk to me about working on an oil rig. What's that all about?
Well, we drilled wells.
Yeah.
We drilled wells up to, I think the deepest well that we drilled was just over 30,000 feet. It was a great time, man. They didn't let me on the rig. You got to take a 2-week class before they let you on there. And then they made me wait another 2 weeks till I turned 18 before they let me on the rig.
I can imagine that.
And,
I mean, that's got to be a pretty dangerous environment.
Well, it wasn't that bad coming from commercial fishing.
That's true.
You just kind of don't Yeah. I mean, you don't put your fingers anywhere you wouldn't put your dick, and you're all right.
Exactly.
So no, it was good. I really enjoyed it. It's a young man's game for sure. Pretty hard on your body. But yeah, we were working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, with a 12-man crew, 13 and a half hours a day. And I still keep in touch with those guys, man. Most of them are like brothers,
Yeah.
like older brothers to me. So
It seems like that kind of a bond is very similar to the same kind of bond that guys from the military have together. Like you can talk to dudes that you haven't seen in 15 years and just pick right back up. And I think it's that, it's the bond that you have through adversity, right? As you're suffering through whatever situation it is, that's just you guys, right? And you're dealing with whatever conditions it is that you're dealing with, and you're bouncing off one another, right?
you got to deal with it together as a team.
You're
right?
dealing, and,
Yep.
and you have
got to
you have a
rely on
mission.
one another as well.
You have a mission to
Absolutely.
accomplish, right? A job to accomplish. And so I think that's badass. That's super cool. And so what positions did you occupy? Like when you're did you do everything on the drill operation?
Yeah, I started off as a worm, as a roustabout, and then I worked my way up, and I worked fullers for a while, and then I forget what happened. They needed a spot working derricks, and so I did that for a long time.
So working the derrick is hooking up the pipe.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. You're 120 feet off the ground, standing on little steel fingers.
Yep.
With a rope around your belly.
Yep.
And that was a blast. It's kind of you're in your own. In Alaska, you're all bundled up, but yeah, I had they gave us custom molded earplugs, and so I drill holes in them. It's right when the first Walkman earplugs that had foamies on them came out.
I remember that. Yeah.
So I'd buy a pair of those, and I'd drill a hole in my custom molded earplugs and glued those in, so I could just rock out all day and pull back pipe and yeah, it was a good time, man.
So you're doing this when you're about 18?
Yeah, well, I did it till I turned 21 up there. So I did it for 5 or 6 years. Yep.
Well, you were up where you were doing that. I had just enlisted in the Marine Corps, because we're pretty much, you're 44.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Be 45 in September.
I had just enlisted in the Marine Corps I had my 18th birthday at boot camp. And so it was like, the adversities in life that you experience as a young man definitely shape you. They leave imprints on you for sure. 100%. And I think that I've had a couple other dudes on the show talking about things like, youth, like young men, rites of passage, dealing with adversity and being taught how to deal with adversity, right? And through other older men that have dealt with it themselves and are there to like kind of guide you through that process. And I think that's dramatically lacking in current society. Sans other organizations like, drill rigs and commercial fishing operations. These things are still existing, right? They're still happening. But I think largely that's starting to kind of drift away from mainstream.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and definitely seeing the effects of that. Well, that's cool. I didn't know that about you. That's badass, man.
Yeah.
That's some hard shit. You're learning at a very steep curve at that age.
It was a blast, man. It was a good time. Yeah, it was. I definitely wouldn't want to be doing it now.
I can see that.
But I was making good money, and had to kind of, so I was at the airport in Anchorage, and I was opening up my mail. At the airport in Anchorage, I'd usually pay all my bills for the month and whatever else. So I'm buying plane tickets back and forth and whatever. And Alaska Airlines sent me a black card. And I think I was, 22, 23. And that hit me pretty hard. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, I could go buy a house with this thing. I could go buy a Lamborghini. I could go do whatever the fuck I want. You know what I mean? And I kind of started, I decided that I realized at that moment that if I didn't make good decisions, that I could be married to that job.
For sure.
At that point, I think I was making $95,000 a year, which at that time for a kid my age was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And And I'm like, man, all I got to do is go buy a house that I need this job to afford, or, you know, or a new truck or whatever else. I'm stuck here.
That's right.
And so it was at that point I kind of decided that I stayed there for another couple of years, but I decided I needed an out. And I went from, that's when I moved full time to Washington. I'd been flying back and forth and spending some time down here, but yeah, I think I moved to Washington first time in '98. And then it wasn't till 2002 or something I moved back full time, but to Bellingham. But
Okay. All right. And what brought you, like, what was the draw to Washington? Family? Is there family here?
man, I think I was, anyways, snowboarding.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Got
Yep.
it.
I drove down the Alcan, just to go, and I didn't even know where I was going. We were driving down the Alcan, and we were going to spend. So I was commercial fishing in the summer, so I had the winter off at that time. This is before the rigs, right? And yeah, we ended up having some buddies that were going to college, and I think the plan was to like go to Oregon or California or something, and we just never really.
You just never made it.
Yeah, so, yeah, and that was it, right? So there's a whole area of time there. That was my first. When I first moved to Washington, I was still commercial fishing, and then I moved back to Alaska for a little bit, and then I moved back to Washington, working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off at the rigs, and then then I got a job at a plastics injection molding place, making $32,000 a year, and that was really tough for a while.
That's a pretty significant shift.
Yeah.
Significant shift.
Yeah. It was it. But I'm glad in hindsight, I'm glad I did it. But,
Sure.
But yeah, I've been in Bellingham ever since, and that's where I learned machine work, and it's kind of what I've been doing ever since in one way or another.
When did you finally like move to Washington officially? What year?
I don't remember.
Oh, I don't remember.
I honestly don't remember. It was probably, it was after 2001, so maybe 3 or 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I moved up here in 2005.
Okay.
That's when I left California and came up here full time. So just touching 20 years.
Yep.
So now you were into competitive road racing, motorcycles.
Yep. I did that for a while.
Yep. And so how long did you do that?
About 6 years, I think.
Okay. And how old were you when you did that?
Shit, I don't remember. It was that was a long time ago. I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was,
20 years,
yeah, probably
early 20s.
Yeah. I was, a little bit less than 20 years ago.
What
That's where I
tracks
got out of it.
what tracks did you race around here?
So Spokane Raceway Park was still a thing back
okay.
then. That was a lot of fun. Pacific in Kent.
Okay.
Oregon. Eastern Oregon had a place called Oregon Raceway Park. I don't even know if that's still around.
All right.
And then PIR.
Yeah.
They're right outside of Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was moving up here in 2005, I wasn't racing, but I was doing a lot of track days, and I was trying to get into club racing.
Yep.
And I hurt myself. Well, I got blown up. I didn't hurt myself. Somebody else hurt me. So, and that really put a damper on riding the machine.
Yep.
It wasn't impossible, but at that point in time, the injury was so fresh that I couldn't, my brain, the sight picture was good, meaning like I could see everything that I needed to see, but I couldn't physically turn the machine because I couldn't put that much leverage on my right leg. And so it was like, I got myself into a couple of pickles, and it was like, okay, man, you either make the decision to willingly say you can't do this right now, or you're going to seriously hurt yourself. Like you're going to miss a break. You're going to miss a brake marker, and you're going to wad yourself up big time. And so that's when I kind of set the motorcycle aside and sold that, and kind of said, okay, well, I'm back up here. I'm here. And when I was in the Marines, riding motorcycle was the hobby. Work was rifles.
Yeah.
Right. And so and coming up back here, once I realized like, okay, I'm going to give the motorcycle up what's going to fill that gap. And that's going to be back into now shooting as a hobby, because I was a fabricator now as a profession. So it kind of flip-flopped for a little bit, but, and I was looking at all those racetracks when I was coming up here, because I was like, oh, is there places to ride, and what's the difference? And it was big time difference from Southern California and Nevada. And there's not as much run out at these tracks as there are down there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, Pacific at that time, I mean, there was potholes, and I mean, it was pretty sketchy.
Yeah,
I had some friends get pretty hurt there, and for me, it was more mental, right? I didn't have a lot of money at the time, so all my spare time and all winter long, I'd be building my bike for the next season, right? I instructed for NESBA for a while for track days and things like that.
Oh,
right?
okay. Okay.
So most of those guys had two bikes, right? They'd have their bike where they'd go instruct, and then they had their race bike, and I could only afford one bike. And a lot of those guys had, they had guys doing work for them, and I was doing it all myself, and spending every last dime I had.
It's an expensive sport, man.
And I remember Laura had bought me a helmet. It was an Arai helmet with a Jolly Roger skull on it.
Oh.
And it was the fanciest helmet I'd ever had. And I think I got 2 races out of it, and tossed my bike down, and blew a big hole in the frame. I still have the helmet. It's got blood on the inside of it. So yeah, I tried to get back into racing a little bit after that, but I was just always racing at 85%. It was a mental thing, right?
For sure.
And I think that a lot of it was, I think a lot of it was just that I'd already thrown all my chips on the table. I didn't have any more. I had one bike. If I
if you wad that one up, you're done.
Yeah. What I enjoy doing is riding on the racetrack.
Right.
So you throw it down, and I'm done for the season. And that's kind of what got me into shooting. I can have a whole bunch of money in the back of the truck and rifles, and I can have the worst match of my life, and
they're all still gonna be there.
You know what? I can go give it another shot the next day, and it'll be all
For
right.
sure, right. And I'm not like, I don't have broken bones and concussions and a $25,000 plus racing bike that's just in pieces.
Yeah.
Or cartwheeling through the infield.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done that before too. I want to extend a personal thanks to you for being a listener and a follower of the Modern Day Sniper podcast. We appreciate every single one of you guys. And without you, we would not be where we're at today. If you guys enjoy the show, if you like the show, cruise on over to any of the podcast outlets that you're listening to this show on and leave us a comment. We read every single one of them. We want to hear what you guys have to say. Your input is going to help us develop better content, the stuff that you want to listen to. Again, we thank you very much. We appreciate you guys for listening and following. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And without further ado, let's get back to the show. I got a brand new Gixxer 750 right after my injury. And I was like, I don't want to go to a leader bike. I still like that super sport-esque type 600 to 750. I'm not a big guy, right? I'm a small dude. Yeah. So I wanted to stick with that. So I bought a Gixxer 750, and
that's what I ended up that was the last bike I had.
Oh, okay.
Was a 750.
This one I bought it this was a 2004.
Okay. So I think my last one was a 2008.
Okay. A beautiful machine. It was amazing. I loved it. And I promptly wadded that thing up at Buttonwillow. Yeah. It was like, watching it go through the infield end over end was just like, oh my God. I think it had like 500 miles on it. I pulled all the stock skins off, put the racing skins on it and all the stuff. And that was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. 2008 was my last bike. So, I mean, I must not have been out of it as long as I think I have been, but, in Washington, you can race up classes. And that's why I went with a 750. Okay. Because if I raced I started out with a 600, so I could race 600 super sport, super bike, 750 super sport, super bike, and really I could race 6 classes with a 600 super sport if I wanted to.
Okay.
So, and that's why I'm into it, right? Like I want to spend time on the racetrack. I want to race. Mm-hmm. So I did that for a while. But I'm not the smallest dude. And so pretty quick, I decided I built a 750 and raced that in 4 classes. And then before you know it, the 750 turned into an 815 super bike.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun. So I raced that in 3 classes, and that's kind of where where it ended. I put that bike back together. I think I was 5th in the state one year is the best I ever
awesome, man.
got. And then some dude, I don't know what happened to that bike. Some dude drove up from Nevada and bought it from me, and he was taking it to the Isle of Man.
Whoa.
And evidently,
Whoa.
yeah, right. Evidently, there was a year there where they were trying to get more racers from this side of the pond.
Okay.
And so whoever was putting that race on was paying for containers of bikes and gear, and they were paying to ship them.
Oh, okay.
So you could put all your shit in their containers. All you had to do is get yourself there and back. And I thought that was super cool. He was way into it. He bought the whole deal, bought my trailer, all the full spares kit, spare motor. And I told him, let me know how it goes. And I never heard back from him. So, yeah. I didn't.
It's so it's so bananas.
So
it's
gnarly.
So bananas.
Yeah.
You just watch the videos and you're just like, oh my God. I have a concept. Most people watch you have no concept, right? You're just like, wow, they're going really fast. And then you're just like, you start seeing some of the stuff and you're going, whoa, dude, that's insane. It's like watching guys, the wingsuit proximity flying wingsuit flyers,
Yeah.
those pilots. Like when you're running a GoPro, like when you're trying to get video of somebody skydiving, you got to be pretty close because they're wide. It's a wide angle lens.
Yep.
So in order for like your face to fill the frame, you got to be like right here. You know what I mean? You got to be pretty close. And so watching those proximity flight videos of their perspective GoPros, and you're seeing how close, if it looks close in the GoPro, it has got to be insanely close in real time. And so I've done a couple of trips up to, you know where Stehekin is?
Mm-hmm.
There's Skydive Chelan does, they're actually doing it. I think it's coming up this weekend. They're going to go up. They always go up to Stehekin. They rent the lodge for 4 or 5 days, and then you do a bunch of helicopter jumps. And this time of year, the snow is going to be at about 5,000 feet, but the mountains up there top out about 8.5, 9. And so the helicopter ride up to altitude is stunning. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you're falling through a valley down to the Stehekin Valley Ranch. And it's absolutely, the visuals are insane. It's beautiful. When you step off the helicopter, you truly see the visual sensation of you falling from your peripheral. You can see the valley floors coming up along. It's a really cool place to jump. But they go up there and they always have a group of like 5 or 6 wingsuit dudes, and they'll put those guys off above this McGregor Mountain, and they fly those couleurs down, and they're all base jumping. They're using base jumping parachutes. So when they open their parachutes, they're really close to the ground, and when they fly, when they're finished with their run, they fly right over the top of the landing area where like the helicopter is and all things. And so like right above your head, you're watching these dudes 250, 300 feet above you dumping their parachutes out, right? It's so cool to watch. It's really insane. But the level of concentration that is required to ride a motorcycle at that level and maintain focus is the name of the game, right? Like it's such a huge mental game to be able to stay switched on and not lose focus when you're going that fast. I thought I was going fast once and I got passed by Jason Pridmore, and I was like, I'm not fast at all. Like this dude's on a leader bike and he's sliding both tires, looking back at me being like, hey, what's up?
You all good back there?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm not anywhere close. And that was the point at which I realized it was like, hey man, this is just like, I'm too long in my life to have not established that fear inoculation of like, it's like I asked one guy, I was like, hey, how do you go faster? And he looks at me and he goes, like this.
That's right.
And it's that simple. It really is that simple. You just have to go faster, right? And it's conquering the fear and learning what your body can and can't do in times of like in processing times. And I loved it. I loved it. It was like I lived to experience that, like be in that moment. And I think that's why I like skydiving, and that's probably why I like shooting so much, because like,
That's why I got into snowboarding. That's why I got into road racing. That's why I like all of those. It doesn't matter what's bothering you for the day. There's no room.
mm-hmm,
You drop in on a good line on a snowboard, and you're not thinking about anything that's bothering you, right?
mm-hmm,
You get on the racetrack, and you get past about 130, 140, and all of a sudden,
everything just kind of
you're,
swims away.
yeah. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with pulling a trigger, right? You're not. I can't think about anything while I'm pulling a trigger. So
Yeah.
it's therapeutic, trigger therapy.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you stay in that state the whole day, or do you feel like you kind of come in and out of it? I mean, we come in and out of it from the racetrack, based upon, your session, right? You're switched on for your session, and then you come off and you decompress and do the thing that you got to do. Like shooting, it's like 2 minutes. Like, where do you feel like that is for you? Is it in the stage time, or is it all day long? You're trying to stay in the zone. Like, what does that zone look like for you?
Well, so some of the best matches that I've shot, I'm extremely tired at the end of the day,
Mm,
right? And so it's something that I'm working on, because we don't really need to stay switched on for more than 2 minutes at a time.
right.
Maybe 2.5 minutes, right? If you're going to kind of take another look at conditions or whatever else. But I think I was trying to stay engaged all day long. And I it's just too much,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, that's I can't tell you that I know how to do it, because I don't, but it's
Mm-hmm.
something I'm working on, right? Is whatever turning on whatever it is that I need to compete, when it's time to have things turned on,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of kicking back a little bit and relaxing,
Yeah.
and turning it off, so
Right.
that you're not hitting the rev limiter all weekend long, right?
For sure. Absolutely. And you have to be able to manage that. And that I think is the trick. I mean, I think a lot of people we've all identified that this is, once you identify that you're a fundamentally sound shooter, and that you can apply the fundamentals under all of those different conditions or different stressors, then everything else it's your ability to have good interpretation of the conditions, right? So that way you can account for them, mental focus, and then, like we were talking about earlier, luck. There's
Yeah,
a
there's a
certain
lot of
degree of luck in this game, right? So, like the times of the day at which you shoot a stage, I won. We were Blue Ridge, and at the end of the day, it just so happened that the last stage of the day for my squad was the long bomb stage, and if the azimuth of the center of the long bomb stage wasn't exactly 270 degrees, it was pretty damn close, because that sun was setting right in the middle of the target line, and I couldn't see anything. So I basically had to pitch 10 points and pitch them.
yeah.
Right. Whereas the dudes who are shooting that in the early morning or even midday, any time other than that, right?
Yeah.
That's the condition roulette that you play, and there is absolutely luck to it, or synchronicity, as Cassandra brought up. I think that is actually the luck aspect of it sounds victimized.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It sounds victimized, where it's just like, no, well, those guys had this, and it's just the facts, right? It's just the way that it's just the way that card dealt you that hand. That's what you got to play. I think people try to be as fair as possible, but situations like that, nonetheless, they do come up. Or like,
I think that the sport's come a long way in the last few years. Um, I think that Ken Wheeler, and I think that the match directors, are really paying attention to trying to make a match as fair as possible.
I don't think they can afford not to anymore.
Yeah, right.
You just can't.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
you know,
It's a big deal. And I mean, little things still happen, but I think that there's a lot of attention and given to that, and I think that it's come a long way. I think it's pretty impressive.
just a little bit. You can move it too. You can,
yeah.
with
This thing moves.
yeah, you can move it. You can do what you need to do with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're never gonna get away from it 100%, right?
No,
It's
there's
just
always
not
going to be
happen.
things.
But and people are, dude, there's so many good shooters these days. I think that's the other thing is back in the day, you could drop the first shot of every stage and still win, and it's not like that anymore.
Nope. It's not like that
So
anymore.
if it's the it's one or two shots over a weekend usually deciding a match. So yeah.
Well, that's the evolution has been, it's been really intriguing to watch as it's kind of grown and morphed. I think the first match I shot up here in the Pacific Northwest was 2008 or 2009, somewhere up here between the Weenass Valley and Ellensburg. There's Durr Road that connects the two. And that's pretty much how I got started here in the Northwest. And then Jim up in Wenatchee, the Wenatchee Gun Club with Jesse Riddell and Jim Plummer up there, and those guys started that, and it just kind of grew from there. And those were just weekends where everybody got together and we shot, put steel out, and
Everybody's bringing out their hunting rifle.
and just went and shot.
Yeah.
And so watching this thing, metamorphosize over, the last decade. Well, now about 20 years, coming up on 20 years for me anyways. It's been really interesting to see the kind of rise and fall of different things and different thought processes. And I think it's great. I think that it's developing better riflemen, because even with like the birth of PRS or the assertiveness of PRS, you still have other disciplines out there like the NRL hunter side of the house. NRL hunter, I knew that it was going to get hyper competitive right away. I knew that was just going to be like a matter of a couple seasons.
Yep.
That's exactly what happened. But the spirit of that competition is very different of that of precision rifle series.
Absolutely.
It's just a different thought process. And so now people have different ways to go about performing or competing with a rifle. And it's one of the things we tell law enforcement dudes all the time. It's like, this is the only way for you to validate your skills, really, in an organized fashion. It's the only way for you to do it is to go to a competition. The mindset aspect of it, though, like when you say the word, I'm going to go to a competition, or I'm going to go to a match, implies that you're going to be competitive in said event, and you're not. You have to go at it with the, like you said, like we were talking about earlier, the mindset of it. It's like, if you look at the field and you see who you're going to be shooting against that weekend, you have to, in order for you to win, in order for you to beat all of those shooters, you have to look at it and say, I can beat every single one of those people. I know I can because I have. And matter of fact, I'm going to do it today too. And that is the mindset that you need to possess. And now it's just, you can either go there, and I tell these guys, I'm like, don't go there with that mentality. Go there and say, I'm here to participate. So that way I can see where my skills stack up and, where are my deficiencies. So that way I can grow from that. I go, it's the only way that you can do it, because you're going to, believe it or not, you're going to have stress. And they're the worst. It's absolutely tough, because they don't, like, I've had dudes say, don't tell anybody in the class that we're cops, because we just kind of keep that on the down low. And it's just like, dude, you're worried. You're worried. Just like you and I were talking about on the range today, they're worried about having someone outshoot them. And then that person knowing that they just outshot a SWAT sniper. And that's that target on the back. Right. And so And I'm like, boys, I dealt with this too. It's okay. It's really, really okay. You got to get out there and you got to just do it, because it's the best way for you to learn outside of your own little echo chamber over here. Just like we were talking about our own individual echo chambers of training. It's like, I don't want to do, like, that's fucking hard. I'm probably not going to hit very many of those targets. So let's just go and shoot that target. So I'm going to hit that one more. And that takes a tremendous amount of discipline to go say, no, I'm shooting today. I'm shooting 1 MOA targets, period.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys when the NRL Hunter series started, we shot the first match in Idaho, and there was a lot of well-known guides and outfitters and you know, lot of chests puffed out Friday morning, with guys that have done fantastic things in the hunting world, right? And they came to a rifle competition, and most of them had their tail between their legs come Sunday.
Yep.
And I still think it's a pretty cool way to take your kit, whatever you decide you're going to go hunting with.
Yep.
And give it a good shakedown. You know, I know a lot of hunters, and most of them don't shoot enough. Mm-hmm. And most of them will be able to tell you what they think their effective range on game is. And I would be willing to bet that most of the time they're wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
but
I see that all the time.
I do think that that you can take if you can set your ego aside and take the shit that you want to go hunting with to a hunter match after 2 days of shooting at targets and finding them, you'll have a pretty good idea of what your hunting rifle, you know, where you should feel comfortable taking a shot.
Yep.
So and it's, you know, so I think they're extremely valuable for that, and they're a lot of fun too, right? So
Enter a hunter or any of those types of find it, range it, shoot it evolutions. It's all about your process and how efficient your process is of getting from there's a target, I've got to shoot that target. This is how far away it is. This is the data that I need. This is the wind call that I need. But, oh, by the way, I have to figure out how to gain stability in this particular scenario to get a good enough sight picture to hit said target. And that's when I'm the first time I shot the Steel Safari, my buddy Cody I didn't know what to expect. I was like, is this like kind of a PRS thing, or is this? And he's just like, no, he goes, this is a field shooting match, and make sure that you got your shit dialed. And I was like, okay, roger that. Sounds good. And I just went and shot my rifle, you know, over the course of 3 days. It was a blast. I had so much fun. Super challenging, but at the same time, I had very simple equipment. I didn't require much, and those targets are not big. Like the biggest target that you're going to shoot on that is probably 2 MOA, and that they don't get any, even back then. Right. Yeah. Whereas like, I remember I did a couple of matches here at, it was the first time I was exposed to a meatball match. People are just like, oh, this is a meatball match. And I was like, cause I'm not like I never have been like deeply entrenched in the competitive shooting world. It's just been something that I'll go attend an event if I have the time, and we'll go participate and have fun. And I'm like, meatball match. And they're like, meatball targets. We shot the PRS skills stage, and there was a 16-inch round at 400 yards. It was retarded. I mean, it was absolutely retarded. We could say that now, I guess, but I was like, this is ridiculously easy. I think I shot that obviously completely clean in like 28 seconds.
Was that Jake's match at Blue Ridge?
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah. It was like really, it was really foggy and frosty, but
I think things have gotten a lot more standardized since
way
then.
More standardized, way more
Which
standardized.
It's good, right?
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And I love the fact that I love the fact that the boundaries are continuing to be pushed, you know, like looking at both at complexity, the mental complexity of whatever course fires presented, number one. Number two, the target size, because the target size is shrinking regardless of what the conditions are. So that just means
by quite a bit,
yeah, considerable amounts. And that just means that now equipment is increased, right? but so has the skill level, because in the grand scheme of things, even we were not shooting dashers 10 years ago. That was not a thing yet. Most people were shooting 6 Creedmoor, 647, 6.5 Creedmoor. So the rifles were, and they weren't as heavy. They were getting there. Like they were getting up there like 20 pounds, 18 to 20 pounds, but they were all tactical rifles. They were like that Sentinel right there. It was like that was what it was.
Yep.
It was a Macmillan stock, or some dudes had chassis and whatnot, but now it's definitely a different game. So the equipment is, everybody's pretty much on par with equipment these days. I mean, you can buy your way to that, right? In the grand
You've
scheme.
got to have a good shooting rifle.
You have to.
You
That's
have to have a
period.
good
End of
shooting
story.
rifle.
But then it's the skill level, and it's the ability to practice, like you were talking about it. This guy taught me this long time ago, and he was like, listen, if you're going to accomplish any said task, you got 3 things that you have to take into consideration. How much time do you have? How much money do you have? And how many resources do you have? And if you have, and you start breaking it down and say, well, if I need this project done really, really quick, well, that means you need a lot of money and you need a lot of resources, right? If you want to get it done quick. But if you can take your time, right, and if you have a lot of time window, you don't necessarily need a lot of money, but you still need resources, right? So it's like this mix and match of things.
Yeah, pick 2.
Yeah, you got to. One of them is going to direct the application of another 2, right? So in this world, like we were talking about, access. You have to be able to have a good shooting rifle for sure. So your equipment has to be up there or on the same level as a professional competitor, which is attainable, right? It's not like all of that is attainable right now, very, very easily. Now, people have their own individual gunsmiths that they're like, hey man, like, we're not going to talk about where I get my barrels chambered, right? Because I like it the way that it is. And I've told people before, like some of the best gunsmiths out there are the ones that nobody knows about, right? There are very few people know about. They're still turning barrels, in their garage shops, and they're only doing it a little bit, you know what I mean, for buddies or people that they know. But then the equipment is there. It's the time and the resources, right? So the time being able to dedicate to the amount of practice that you need to maintain that edge that you need to maintain, the time to go to shoot rifle matches at the frequency that you need to maintain that edge, and then the resources available to be able to make that happen.
Yep.
So, and the money to be able to make that happen. It's not.
Then you got to do it year after year, right? Because you're not going to learn it all in a year.
Nope, you're not.
So
You're not. You're gonna have to climb and come up through experience.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's fun, right? I mean, that's why we do it.
Yeah, it's like it's having fun. Like we were talking about, my wife was saying, she's like, I'm gonna make a shirt that says, "Keep your face on the fun."
Yep, I want one.
And I think it's great. I think it's great because part of my own internal battles were that I was not having fun for a couple of years. I was not having fun. And I would do things like show up not 100% prepared in terms of like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to go shoot this event. I'm going to throw a load together and I'm just going to show up and go have fun.
That gets frustrating in a hurry.
Really does get frustrating in a hurry. And then like I would beat myself up because I'm like, damn, man, like, but then I really look at it and I'm like, could I have done it any better? Maybe not, because of the compressed timeline that I had. And I'm more reactionary than anything
Well, we've
else.
all done it.
Yeah.
But you can't
expect anything other than a participation at that point. If that's the way you're going to show up.
Yeah. Don't expect top-notch results from the effort that you didn't put in, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
true.
I mean, but that's tough, right? Mm-hmm. It's tough to put your ego aside and go, oh man, I just threw some shit together, and my score looks like I just threw some shit together. You're still going to be bummed on yourself. So
sure.
I mean, we've all done that.
Or you turn it around and say, well, I'm not going to be bummed with myself because I I knew that this was going to happen. So,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
so
Yeah,
it's
right.
like, yeah, instead of, so you're just like, well, I can't really be, I mean, I certainly can, but it's like wasted effort. It's like, the definition or like the reality of depression is focusing on something that's already happened
Yeah.
and that's completely unchangeable. Right. And then anxiety is focusing on something that hasn't happened yet, which is completely uncontrollable because it hasn't happened yet. So both of those things are really silly to do in the logical sense when you're not in some sort of psychosis. And I think the best medicine is to just do your absolute best to stay in the present moment every single moment, right? Not
Yeah, yeah.
thinking forward, not thinking behind, but do your best to stay in the present moment.
Super tough to do.
It's really tough to do. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the other side of that is true too, though, right? I mean, you can do everything right. You can prepare as much as anybody can ever prepare, and you can have the best shooting rifle, and you can go shoot the best rifle match that you ever have, and still not win.
Yeah.
It's that competitive, right?
It sure is.
Either way, you can't really. Either way, you got to be having fun, right?
You really do. And then you have to be able to be aligned with your intent or your purpose. Because when that starts to get skewed, then that's, for me anyways, that's where the fun started to kind of drift away from it. And I was like, man, this just is not fun. And I'm grinding through this as an experience. And I don't want to do that. I'm not.
I can definitely tell you the best matches I've ever shot were when I was having a good time.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, right? Is to go shoot and have fun. I told myself if I ever got to the point where I didn't enjoy going to practice, if I didn't enjoy grabbing my rifles and going somewhere and shooting at targets, that I would quit. And I still enjoy that. So
It's a cool allure to be able to go to an unknown location, show up, read and interpret the conditions, correct for whatever conditions you're seeing, and put bullets exactly where you want them to go, like with intention every single time. That's the allure. And like students that come to class as beginning students, as beginning shooters, once they see that and they make that connection and they're like, oh, not only can I do this, but I can do it with intention. I can say, here's 5 targets, right? And you're going to shoot all 5 of those targets, 2 shots each, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through. And then they just go, wow, this is a thing. And I'm like, yes, this is a big thing. Welcome.
For me, it's super therapeutic.
It's very therapeutic.
My wife told me on the drive over here, she's packing me a bag and you're ready. You're really ready for me to get out of here, huh? And she's like, oh no, you just need to go shoot. You get grumpy if you don't shoot. So,
yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for me personally anyway.
All right, real quick. I know everybody hates ads. Nobody likes their show being interrupted to talk about stuff, but I got to let you guys know about the Modern Day Rifleman Net. The Modern Day Rifleman Network is the largest growing online community of precision shooters out there today. What's different about it? Well, first off, it is not social media. Number one, it's not a Facebook group. Number two, it is not a forum in the traditional sense. It is its own platform, its own software, and there's about 10,000 people in there that are just like you, who are discerning long-range shooters, precision shooters that are looking to just get information to help them become better at what they are choosing to do and spend their time with, which is long-range shooting. So if you're interested in that kind of group and that kind of community, it really is super unique. And I can't really explain it too much more than just saying, hey man, if you haven't gone over there, check it out, see what we have built, and see what's going on inside there. There is a tremendous amount of free information available to you that's really easily searchable. And it's really, I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's really well organized and easy for you to find the information you're looking for. So on top of Modern Day Rifleman Network, on the free side, we also have our monthly subscription service called Modern Day Rifleman Advantage. And inside that, you're going to get access to about 4 hours of content a month month, as well as monthly dry fire drills or daily dry fire drills, training sessions, and another internal community inside of that. It's like a Patreon thing on steroids, right? We have tons of information in there, and our content vault inside the Advantage program goes back like 5 years. So there is so much information in there. It's kind of mind blowing when we look at it. But we're just going to keep going forward and keep adding to it. You've got a tremendous benefit in there. On top of that, if you're a professional sniper and you are looking to get more information, because let's face it, your department, your unit, your agency, whatever it is, they're not going to be doing that for you. That's on you because you are the volunteer. We have created a tremendous amount of resources in there for our professional users because those are my roots. That's where I cut my teeth in this community, is in the sniper community. And I understand that it's difficult to find information, and a lot of it is on you. Well, the majority of it's on you to continue to source it. Modern Day Sniper Pro, you get access to sniper specific stuff, content. You get sniper specific live question and answer sessions every month, lessons that are directly applicable to professional snipers, as well as you also get access to all the Modern Day Rifleman Advantage content too. So it's kind of like a twofer. Make sure you guys go check that out. We have discounts available for our first responders, active and retired, former military, because we want to take care of you guys. We know that finding information out there is not easy to do. So we're trying to make it easy for you. All right, man. So that's my spiel with Modern Day Rifleman Advantage and Modern Day Rifleman, the free side, as well as Modern Day Sniper Pro. So let's get back to the episode. So let's shift gears for a little bit. If you were to look at the most important fundamental of marksmanship to Corson, what would your most important fundamental of marksmanship be?
Natural point aim, for sure. Yep.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's not a quiz or nothing. I think that's fantastic because that's my point of view as well. Like if you can't get the rifle to naturally point at the target, it doesn't matter how good your trigger control is. You're going to get a zinger one way or the other.
Yep. I don't know how many times I've, tried to give it a little English, and sure enough,
Give it a little English.
I mean, that's just the way it goes. Or you think everything's all good, and then you pull a shot and you notice that the fore end's resting on part of the prop or something like that, and the bullet's just not going to go where you want it to.
Mm-hmm. So natural point aim. So when you're practicing, do you break your practice sessions up into isolating specific skills, or do you have a specific mission when you show up to a practice session? How do you go through that with preparation to go practice?
Well, the past few years, I got to be honest, I haven't really done a whole lot of what you would call practice.
Okay. You're using matches because that's what you have for time available to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many matches I shot last year, but the 2 years before it was over 30. Right.
Okay.
So I'm at matches a lot.
Yes, you are.
I do think that it's pretty tough to practice being a competitor in practice.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Yep. And I think, it depends on what level you're at, right? But I found that I was getting to the point where I was practicing shooting, right? But what I needed to be practicing was being a competitor. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you can only do that in a competition.
When you say that, I don't want to dig into your bag of tricks, but when you say that, what is a couple of things that you would look at and say, like, I need to train to be a competitor?
Well,
what does that look like?
Well, so the first thing is when I go to the mountains and shoot, I shoot a lot by myself. Mm-hmm. And when I go to the mountains to shoot, I notice that typically, and I think that this is true for most people, when I would go to practice, I would practice the things that I'm good at. Mm-hmm. We all like to hit targets. Yep. I would put myself in the positions that I felt most comfortable, mm-hmm. And I would go hit a bunch of targets. And this is way past the point of knowing how to properly pull a trigger, right? So I wasn't actually practicing skills that I needed to practice. I was just repeating skills that I knew how to do. It's one of the things that I've mentioned to some newer shooters, and it's one of the struggles that I deal with is when I get done with a match, being honest with myself as to why I missed targets. And it only works if you can be honest with yourself, right? Because we can all make really good excuses. But if you can honestly identify why you missed all of the shots that you missed, and write them down, you can usually start to see a trend. And then the next step is figuring out how to practice that out, right? Figuring out some sort of method, and that's super tough, right? Depending on what your issue is, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's super easy. If you go to a match and you drop all of your shots on stages that you use tripod rear, well, then you either need to stop using tripod rear, or you need to learn how to use it, right? If you drop all of your shots on the high wind day, maybe you need to go take a wind class. If they're all long range stages, maybe you need to shoot a bigger bullet or practice at some longer distances or whatever, right?
Tune your ballistics even more accurately than what you're doing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right. I mean, is your dope screwed up? If you're missing all your targets because your dope's screwed up, well, it's really not a tough thing to figure out, right?
It's not.
If you've identified that. So yeah, I mean, I don't do any dry fire because I really like recoil. I think that's a big part of I've tried dry fire in here and there, and it didn't really seem to help me much. So, yeah, shooting matches is good. And when I do go to practice, it's typically because there's something that I've identified that I need to work on. And I'll be working on that, whatever it is.
Right. Okay.
I do bring a dice with me. I got a dice in my backpack, and that kind of helps make things tough. You pick 5 props, five positions, and 5 targets, and then you just roll the dice, and then you write it down on your armboard. And those positions are where you're shooting. So you end up with, 5 positions, 5 targets. It's quite a bit of movement, depending on how the dice fall. You might have a pretty small target from a pretty shitty position that you probably wouldn't have otherwise picked.
Yeah.
If you were to create a stage yourself. So sometimes that can get pretty frustrating.
Sure.
Yeah. But if you end up rolling the dice and you get a good stage, you shoot it once and you clean it and then you roll again. But if you get a really shitty one, sometimes it makes you think about how you're gonna make up time. How are you going to work through it, right?
Yeah.
Can I make up some time on the easy target so I can take a little bit more time on the tough one or whatever? That's one thing that I've done in practice in the past.
Okay. Are you a guy that's going to put yourself, if you are practicing, are you going to put yourself under a timer, or are you just going to kind of
typically
you're going to do a timer? Cool.
Yep. I mean, if I'm actually practicing, time's important.
Yep.
If I'm trying to get warmed up for a match, time's important. I'll usually try to use the par time that the match is going to have just to kind of get warmed up to that par time, right?
Yeah. Are you a guy that mounts an external timer to the rifle?
Man, I didn't want to for years, and I find beginning of last year I started using one.
And you think you find it to be beneficial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Being able to see what's going on.
Yeah, it took me half a year of having it on there before I actually even used it.
Right.
It was a whole different. You got to train yourself to look at it.
Sure.
But what I found was that I was dropping shots. I was dropping my last shot on stages where I thought that I was running out of time.
Got it. So you're pushing it.
And a lot of times I wasn't even running out of time. I'd jerk the last shot because I thought I was, and then I'd find out that I had 15 seconds left. Right.
And 15 seconds is a lot of time.
So, so that was one thing that I identified. I'm like, okay, well, I need to know how much time I have. I need to know how I'm doing. And that's how I dealt with that. So yeah, I usually look at it on my last position or something like that, and I do think that it's gotten me some points.
Okay.
Whether you got to put 2 bullets in the air and hope for the best, or
Yep.
a lot of times I can just take a deep breath and really make sure that last one counts.
Yeah.
Instead of just jerking it like a moron.
What was the term you used? You used it. I forget it. Putting English on it.
Yeah, yeah,
Put some English on it.
yeah.
I like it. So, and you shoot quite a bit. You said last year you shot about 12,000 rounds.
Yeah, I never kept track of that before, but my buddy Sheldon Nalos, he asked me. He's a real data driven.
Oh, he's
dude.
a very data driven dude.
And he asked me, so I went. I started shooting for Bat Machine last year. I got my actions right before the first of the year, I think, and so it just so happened that I could look back at all the barrels that were chambered for a bat, and count up my rounds for once. And yeah, it was just over 12,000 at the end of the year, and that doesn't count. That doesn't count gas gun stuff and lever gun stuff and pistol stuff, but on the competition rifles. Yeah.
Well, that's a healthy amount of ammo, man. That's a healthy amount of shooting. That is the aspect of the stress inoculation is shooting, right? I see a lot of students, the new students, they see video of themselves and they say, I'm blinking every shot. And I'm like, yes, you are. And they're like, well, how can I stop blinking? And my answer to that is, what are you thinking about when you're pressing the trigger? And they stop and they look at it and they're just like, I've never even thought of that. And I'm like, you need to think about what it is that you're actually thinking about before you press the trigger, because that is the reason that you're blinking. That's the reason that your body knows that blast is on the way. And if you allow your subconscious to control all of those motor skills to press the trigger, you're going to receive a startle response from the recoil, and that startle response is why you're blinking. And once they realize and understand what it means to truly trust the wobble and ignore the reticle, that's when they stop blinking. They stop blinking when they can say, no, I thought of this all the way up to I caught recoil, right? And it's usually trigger control, because then that final moment, once aiming is done, it's like you probably feel the same thing. Once the aiming process is over with, we don't want to continue to aim, because if you continue to aim, things are going to get worse. The wobble's going to increase, time's ticking. Right. Like if the rifle is aimed and you've made the decision that, hey, this is the wind call that I'm going to use, and this is the sight picture that's acceptable for that particular target size, let's not aim anymore. Right. Because that's when the anxiety starts to settle in. That's when your focus goes from where you want the bullet to land to what the reticle's doing as it's wandering around over the face of the target. And once that occurs and you can consciously think about something other than what's going on down at the target or what's going on with your reticle, you won't blink. Your eyes will stay open, because you're tricking your brain to not know what's coming. Because if you don't do that startle that you get from the recoil impulse, that's going to cause your brain just goes in a little blip.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I enjoy the recoil. It's a positive thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the things I really enjoy is shooting positional off really stable props.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And when I'm doing it right, I can shoot as good as I can prone.
Yep.
And if I'm shouldering the rifle properly, the gun goes off and the reticle shakes a little bit, and I can watch everything going on downrange, and it's a great feeling. So I'm I can't say that I consciously trained myself to do this because I didn't, but I've found that maybe first thing in the morning, if I haven't shot in a while, whatever, I'm still waking up, haven't had my coffee, maybe the first couple rounds will be like, wake me up a little bit. But once I get in a groove, the recoil is not a negative thing. Like it's not like I'm anticipating I want the recoil to happen. I want to see that bullet go down range.
Let's get
And
this over with.
I think that not even let's get this over with. Like this is what I'm here to do, right? Like, granted, I'm shooting a dasher with a big old break on the end, right? Or most of us are shooting small recoiling calibers, but even shooting my 300 Norma, I mean, I get behind that thing and it, it's, you put a good break on the end of it and it's fun. Like I have trained my mind to want the recoil as opposed to seeing as a negative thing.
Like it's a definitive step in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel nothing negative from recoil.
So are you a both eyes open shooter?
Mm-hmm.
No, sometimes.
I don't pull the trigger with my left eye open. I find the target, I find my landmark with my left eye.
Okay.
Then I get behind the scope and check my bubble level with my left eye. And at that point, my target's in my scope.
In your field of view.
In my field of view. And I close my left eye and take my shot.
Okay, got it.
So both.
See, I find that if I close one eye, if I close my left eye, it's significantly more difficult for me to see things happening in my scope. How's your nearsighted vision at this point in time in your life?
My eyes are not getting any better the last couple of years. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I forget. I don't wear any corrections, but going to see the eye doctor is kind of on the list of things to do.
So like my nearsighted vision started to drift away probably about 2 years ago. I started to see, now I have to wear readers if I want to read anything. If there's any low light that match, did you shoot the night match out there at the lead farm last winter? I think it was last winter.
They've had a couple of them.
Yeah, that's true. They have, haven't they?
Their first silent soiree. Is that the one you're talking about?
It wasn't a PRS match. It was a regional. It was a night match. Yeah.
I shot one of them. I got a second place trophy from one of them. Was it the one that had the fluorescent trophies? The glow in the dark trophies?
No, it was this. I ended up shooting fifth. It was this one. 2024.
That's the one.
That's right. You did. You shot second.
Yep. I got that same target with number 2 on it.
And that was what I realized. I was like, dude, I am literally, if I was still in, I'd be combat ineffective because I can't see shit right now. I couldn't see my arm board. I was, and I totally took it for granted. And then that was like, hey, you're not 24 anymore. You're actually 44. And so your eyes are a limiting factor now. I have to have tape on my turret. I got to be able to have the white background with the black markings to see it up close. And so I've noticed that some of it is affecting my ability to see impacts.
Yep.
Right. Because it is the way that you're focusing your scope. It is in front of your face. Right. And so that's been a learning experience that I've had to work through, is like, I need to make sure that when my rifle does recoil, that the target is in a clear quadrant of the scope so that there's nothing in the way. So that way I can see everything, because I need every bit of it that I can get. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
I'm seeing a lot less trace now than I was a couple years ago.
Yeah,
for sure. And it's just I do like those night matches though.
They're fun.
I think there's a lot. I hope we keep having them. There's something to that, like going into it knowing that the amount of feedback that you're used to
is going to be
is going to be minimal, right?
Yep.
And I don't know. I think it's a skill, right?
Sure.
It's kind of like shooting at skyline targets all day long.
Oh man.
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
you gotta have a plan, and you gotta have a backup plan.
For sure. Now, that's a great question. Now, if this is a trade secret, you just tell me and I won't ask, or I won't ask you to answer.
I don't have any trade secrets.
No, so if you airball, right? If you airball a target and
Yep.
you can't, and you're just like, I got nothing, Sarge. What's the next step? What do? You had a
Well,
wind hold. You had a wind hold, and you had a wind hold. You obviously know what direction the wind's coming from. So you're either going to have to analyze, am I calling heavy or am I calling light? And what am I going to do?
Well, so I tell you what you don't do is what I did a couple weekends ago at Parma, and that's go up there with your wind call and no backup plan and send them all in the dirt.
That's
Don't do
a
that.
tough one. Yeah.
But I know better than that. I thought I knew better than that. Especially for skyline targets. If you don't think that you're going to be able to see your impact, you should absolutely have a backup plan.
Sure.
Right? You need to know the width of your targets. Mm-hmm. You need to be holding your wind call to the center of the target, not to the edge. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll favor one way or the other. Right? If I've got a window of what I think the wind's going to be doing.
So you got a hold safe zone on the target for yourself.
Yeah, and maybe I'll fudge one way or the other, right? Yeah, it looks like it's picking up a little bit. Let's hold the top end. Yeah, it looks like it's let off a little bit. Let's hold the bottom end. Well, if I miss at the bottom end, I'm going to pick it up.
Sure. Okay.
Right? If you put it right in the middle, well, then what are you going to do?
If you put the
middle of your range
right
in the middle of the
in
target.
the middle of the target.
Well, then it's either one way or the other.
Exactly. That's a good point. There you go.
So there has been times where I've on purpose held light or heavy
Just to get some feedback.
just to use more of that plate. Like, okay, I think if I hold my heavy, I'm still what I think it is. It's still going to be on the plate. Mm-hmm. But then when it's not, there's a pretty good chance that it's because it let off. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely does. I did the same thing killing that buck last year that I was telling you about. I was like, hey, it's either 3 or it's 8. And it's a 580 yard shot and I'm shooting a 7mm, and the way that the deer stood, he was quartered hard away from me. So I had a really small area to shoot at. And I looked at it and I said, well, if I hold for an 8, even if it's a 3, I'm still going to put that in his guts. And I'm like, we're not doing that. So I'm going to hold for a 3. And if it is an 8, I'm going to miss him off the right shoulder. And he's probably going to give me another shot because of where he's standing. And that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
And I said, I'm going to hold a 1/4 mil this way. It wasn't enough. And I was like, and the bullet missed him clean and he stood there frozen. And I said, no, I gotcha. It's 8. So I held 6/10 and crushed him. And so that would be the same kind of thing of holding safe and saying, well, if I'm too light on the wind call, I hit him in the guts the way that this orientation of the target is. And so don't want to do that, obviously. So
yeah, you got to.
You're
have
doing
a
the
plan.
exact same thing.
And yeah, like I say, at Parma a couple weekends ago, I went up without a plan. My plan was just to hit the targets, and that's not very good. But rule number 1 is don't shit the bed.
That's always a good rule.
Yep.
I mean, it's a fantastic rule. Don't shit the bed, Corson.
Yep. So if you've got a plan and a backup plan, it's way easier to not shit the bed.
Do you are you a guy that writes? Are you writing? How many wind calls are you writing per target? You gonna have a couple on there, or are you just gonna go with one?
No, I don't. If we've got a pretty good idea, if you've been shooting in the same spot for a couple stages,
Yep.
you've got a pretty good idea what the wind's doing.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'll usually put 2 winds in.
2 winds.
Yeah. I've got the wind that I shot the last stage with, and then maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on what my gut tells me. But unless it's hauling ass like it was today,
Yeah.
you don't need any more than 1 wind, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can Even if you've got to add a half mil to whatever it is all the way down, you can do that on the clock. So
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So keep it simple. It doesn't matter. Just add a half.
you're going to be close, right? I mean,
And we're at that point in time, you're trying to get on the plate and you're reading the plate and adjusting accordingly anyways,
that's right.
right? Based upon where the bullet's landing.
That's right. You've got one, your initial shot is one wind hold. You get to pick one. So pick that one wisely.
Yep.
And then have a plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And like I say, I don't usually, after you've shot a stage or two, you've got a pretty good idea what the wind's doing, no matter where you're at, right? And so you should be able to put it in the right area.
Sure.
And
let's talk about notes. How detailed are your notes after, before, during, if any?
man, I've started taking a lot of notes on windy days.
Yeah.
Probably more than I need to. But that's one that might be worth some points.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
That's one that might be worth some points. I've been, it's amazing tracking the wind throughout the day.
Yeah.
You've got some gadgets that do that.
Yeah. It's cool to see.
I'm doing it pretty analog.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, not so much what the wind's doing, but well, yeah, what the wind is doing at my location, and then also tracking what I shot the last stage at. It doesn't matter what I think the wind's going to do. I've just shot the stage. I know what the wind's doing.
You know what it's doing.
I know, you shoot 3, 6, 900 yards. I know what the wind's doing right there. So yeah, I've started to track that a lot and write it down, just so I don't forget it. It's amazing when I started to do that, how consistent the wind typically is. When previously I would think, oh man, the wind's it was from 5 to 15 all day. And when you really start to track direction and velocity, from back calculating what you saw from your bullets, it's a lot more consistent.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then what I end up looking at is wind direction.
Yeah.
Especially in like we were dealing with today, heads and tailwinds.
Yep.
It doesn't take much.
Yep.
Right.
Oh man, we went anywhere from 275 degrees all the way to like 250 degrees, just like that. I mean, it went probably about 25 degree change really fast. And so that makes a big difference, especially when you're shooting out at 8, 9,000. You go from 0.3 to 3 mils, right? Just like that. One shot and you're, whoa, oh, okay. Clearly something's changed. So let's just go ahead and apply that. And then you look, because there's not much out there on that range. There's like 4 trees, and everything else is sagebrush and dead grass. And this is probably one of the more challenging times a year to shoot out there, is the summertime, because that grass, you look at it and when it's green and it's flowing, you can see the direction. But when it's dead, it just moves, and it's not telling you exactly where it's flowing. There's mirage out there, but like you said, man, when it gets above 17, 18, 19 miles an hour, it's pretty tough to you're just using the mirage to detect quick changes in the wind. And are you doing that in between targets during a stage, or are you just going off a last shot?
I don't know what you mean.
So, like, say you're going from target 1 to target 2.
Yep.
You hit target 1.
Yep.
Are you looking at the mirage again before you shoot target 2, or are you just saying, hey, I hit target 1 with a 6 mile an hour hold, so I'm going to take 6 to target 2?
Man, I'm gonna have to see something pretty substantial. If I hit target 1 in the center, I'm gonna have to see something pretty substantial to make
a change.
To make a change
for that. You a mile per hour guy or a mill hold guy?
Mill hold.
Meaning, like, do you you speak in tenths of mils and not mile per hour?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. But I write notes in mile an hour. because
Okay.
that's all that really matters,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. Cause so then you're taking that mile per hour value and just applying it to a tenth of a mil correction.
With angle
For sure.
taken into consideration.
For
Right?
sure.
It's like today, the difference at 11:30, the direction that the wind was coming, the difference between a 26 and a 36 mile an hour wind was like 0.3, right? At, I don't know, 800 yards.
Right.
It wasn't much.
It wasn't much.
Right. Sometimes I wish that I could change my Kestrel from giving me 2 wind velocities to giving me 2 wind angles. Right.
Okay.
Because I feel like a lot of times, okay, I just shot a 26 mile an hour wind. Well, the wind didn't change a whole bunch, but it is changing, 15 degrees. Well, that's where I'm going to get blown off the target is when the wind switches 15, 20 degrees. And my bullet's affected by that, right? So now I'm taking my wind bracket that would be 2 wind velocities in a Kestrel, so that is one reason that I would have multiple columns.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Just so that I can see the difference between them.
Because you're either shooting with the wind, right, on a troop line, or you're shooting against the wind, depending on which way it's coming, right? Sure. So essentially what you're doing is if you're shooting into the wind, you're increasing the speed. And if you're shooting with the wind, you're decreasing the speed based upon whatever azimuth it is that you're shooting in relationship to the full value, right?
Right.
So that's the way I look at it in my brain.
But every one of those targets could have a different azimuth, right?
Correct.
And
yes.
then if the wind direction changes 20 degrees, depending on where those targets are, it can get really sporty in a hurry, right?
Yeah, it gets complicated fast.
And those are the times where you'll see a whole lot of numbers on my arm board, and I'm probably looking really confused and stuff. But
it's tough to keep track of. I mean, like even out there today, shooting in 26 to 36 mile an hour winds, going from 0.3 to 3 mils. You can't write enough wind holds on your card to navigate that. Right. So that's when you just have to, that's that flow state of affairs when everything's got to be connected. Everything's got to be jiving. And you start looking at like even intuitive wind calls when, at 400 yards today, we're holding upwards of a mil to hit center at 400 yards. Yeah. So that's some spice. And I look at my reticle and I'm feeling the conditions and seeing the mirage, and I'm like, where I end up is where my intuition tells me or where my intuition feels. And then it's like, oh, look, that's 0.8 to a mil. And it'll happen really fast. And I think that learning curve, steepens, obviously, like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, like the more you do it, the steeper the curve gets. So if you can go out and shoot in those conditions, man, plan your training time so that you can do that. I had some students show up from Idaho once, and it was ripping like it was today. And there were some older gentlemen, and they were like, so what are we going to do today? And I was like, we're going to shoot some bullets and burn some powder. And they were like, wow, really? In this wind? I go, yeah. And they're like, well, we don't shoot in wind like this. And I'm like, well, that's maybe why you haven't had a whole lot of experience shooting in the wind. You got to get out and shoot and stuff like this. So that way you can, number one, have the confidence. Like some of the best classes for student confidence are the springtime out here, like the April and the May classes when it's just savage wind and cold. And students are connecting on targets out there in 20, 30 mile an hour winds. And their confidence is just huge. Yeah. They're like, no big deal, right? Yeah. 400 or 500 yards, chip shot, no problem.
It's amazing how consistent bullets will fly through the air, even when you can't stand there upright.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they'll do it.
I used to like when you'd hear people say, oh, I got wind screwed. The wind screwed me on that stage or whatever, the wind shut off or it just stopped or it changed. And I started looking at myself with that. And once I started shooting paper targets from, barricade supported positions and tripod on paper targets at 100 yards, that's where the rubber really meets the road. And so when people say that, oh, I got wind screwed, or like the wind screwed me on that stage, whatever, it's like, dude, if you can go recreate that entire stage that you just shot on paper, and you can keep all 10 of your shots, or 8 or 12, whatever it was that you shot, if you can keep them all well inside half the diameter of a 1.5 MOA dot, then we could probably say that you got wind screwed. But if you got a bunch of liners, right, and you're barely hitting the edges of those 1.5 MOA targets, is it your wind call or is it your marksmanship?
You know what I realized is when I started to look at my bubble level before every single shot,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I got way less wind screwed.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
That's probably making sure that the rifle is level, applying all those fundamental principles.
It was amazing. I just started, and I had to train to do that. Right. And sometimes sometimes I get in a hurry and I'm not as good doing it. And then, man, then I start getting wind screwed again. So
yeah. Or it doesn't make sense. I always can see a student on the firing line most of the students are showing up today with either a 6.5 or a 308. And I typically will remember students more from their rifles than from them themselves. I know it sounds bad. That's just the way it is. I'm getting better though. I'm getting better at remembering names. Anytime I see someone that's got a wildly different wing call than everybody else, it's automatically like, hey, check. And then you look at their rifle and their shit's like this. So, yeah, you get sucked into that. And I mean, back in the day, when I learned how to shoot long range, there's no such thing as a level on a gun. That was it. But then again, our training was not really, we shot on a flat range with we pulled butts and stuff. And so we didn't technically need a level, right?
sure.
Just make sure that the reticle's quartering that target and send it. And yeah, it's definitely a thing for sure. And it plays a big role in your wing calls for sure.
At least these days with the size of targets,
100%. That
getting
would
pretty small, right?
My next point is like, even back then, like somebody asked me in our network, what was the qualification that I used back in the day? And we shot, it wasn't that hard. Like, I mean, it was back then because you didn't have the breadth of experience.
Sure.
But we shot 20-inch wide by 40-inch tall targets from 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1,000, 5 shots per yard line, 3 of them stationary, 2 of them on moving targets. And then the 900 and 1,000 were just 5 shots each, right? Stationary from the prone. And so, 35 points, 28 to pass. And so I want to go shoot that again. And just
with today's equipment.
Well, with today's equipment, I'd probably take,
knowledge.
I'd take a 308. I'd put a 308 barrel on my ATX and I'd go out and just shoot it with a 308 and I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
And we never had like any continual, like once you qualified, it was just like, that was it. Unless you went to a school,
you're good enough.
You didn't shoot anymore. Like you didn't you didn't have to qualify every year. You had to qualify with like your service rifle, but for snipers, we didn't, like once you pass school, you never had to qualify again.
Thumbs up, go get him, Tiger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and then everybody would talk shit and they'd just be like, ooh, fucking unked. And you're just like, bro, do you think you could go pick up a 40 right now and go shoot that qual and shoot better than 28? I don't know, man. I don't know. Put your money where your mouth is. Come out here. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you realize that, the training deficiency was huge. I mean, that was that was right at the start of the GWAT. That was like 99 to 2000, 2001. So we've come a long way, but even when the schoolhouse shut down, they're still shooting the same qual 25 years later. Right. Yeah. So, and then, I got exposed to the British qual course. We had an exchange instructor at the advanced sniper course in Quantico. And this guy was like, he was a freaking wealth of knowledge. I learned more from him than I learned from anybody else. And their qual was way hard compared to ours. They shot from shooting sticks. They had scoring, they had smaller targets, and they had scoring zones. They had time limits. I was like, man, okay, all right. maybe we're not the best.
So the British started PRS.
So the British started PRS? Well, I mean, they kind of did back in the late 1700s. We're a country of riflemen, man.
That's right.
Yeah, I learned a lot from him. And it was more all along, like, those guys they were masters of the craft and of everything, right? Not just shooting. They were really good at their field craft. They were really good at mission planning. They were really good at a lot of things. And so it takes a well-rounded approach to do that. And a lot of people think that, the sniper stuff, that we're just like shooting rifles all the time. And, like, why do those guys need? It's like, dude, we got such abysmal numbers of ammunition to train with. It was atrocious, absolutely atrocious, absurd, right? To be able to say that's an effective fighting force with that level of training. So, yeah, we didn't get a whole lot. And so, like, when it did come time to shoot your rifle and go to the range and train, it was like all hands were focused on shooting, but your job as a sniper, shooting is only about 10% of what you do.
Right.
If that. Sometimes you won't touch your rifle fire a shot for months, right? It's just not your job. So, yeah. So what's next for Corson, man? What are your goals, dude? I mean, we were just talking before we sat down and recorded, and I heard some aspirations of world championship.
Oh, I don't think that that's going to work out. I don't, I mean, that would be cool. First world championship in France. I kind of got a backup invite to that.
Okay.
To shoot 308.
Uh-huh.
And I really wanted to go. But they didn't really have it figured out. It was kind of short notice. And then they couldn't really tell me whether we had to shoot factory ammunition or we could shoot hand-loaded ammunition. Mm-hmm. They couldn't tell me what factory ammunition meant if we were to shoot factory ammunition. Mm-hmm. There was a laundry list of things that made me back out of that.
Okay.
And it sucks. It was the right decision. But over the last couple of years, there's been a crew of guys involved with that on the United States side of the World Championship that have they put a lot of work in.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot less question marks these days. I have taken a look at the, what's required to qualify for that. Mm-hmm. And I don't think my pocketbook's big enough, to be honest.
Got it. Right.
As far as flying across the country, shooting matches and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like a top 10 bullet. PRS bullet would be good.
Yeah.
That was kind of my goal last year, and that didn't happen. Came up just shy of that. Not for lack of trying.
No, not at all, Corson. You shoot your ass off. Shoot your ass off.
Every year the competition gets stiffer and stiffer. You know? I think 2 years ago I was 17th in the nation. Last year I was 13th. So if my math's correct, then I'm in this year anyway.
Yeah, so just by de facto.
I just got to show up, bro.
Yeah, just got to show.
That's it. So, yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So that's definitely a goal.
Cool. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And then always you're competing in the regional series up here in the Northwest.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I got 3 wins in pretty early this year, which is nice. I got to pick and choose what matches I go to. So that kind of opened things up a little bit. I'm still shooting the regional series whenever I can, support those guys and get some practice in.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, last year I went into the regional finale with 300 points, and the day before I smashed my finger, broke my finger, and split it wide open at work. So that I couldn't pick up my rifle with one hand, mm-hmm. So that was pretty rough. I shot the match anyways, and the doctor told me that.
I didn't see. We must have been squatted in completely opposite ends of the facility because I didn't see you.
Yeah. My middle finger was all bandaged up. It broke here, and it was held on by the fingernail.
Yeah, you were telling me it was
and
brutal.
It was strange, man. Yeah, the doctor's like, well, you got to keep it super clean, or else, because if it gets infected, then we got to cut your finger off. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, so I'm going shooting. I'll wrap it up so it doesn't get dirty. Can you give me a little bit of lidocaine so that before I shoot, I can numb my finger and just be good to go for the weekend? No. We can't give you any of that, but we can give you a prescription for a bunch of narcotics.
I was just about Matt. He's gonna say, "Yeah, we can Percocet you up, buddy."
That's right. And it was ridiculous. I think I laughed out loud.
Shooting,
are
narcotics.
you fucking joking me? Like you'll give me, I don't know. You'll numb my entire body.
Oh yeah.
With some pills that I definitely don't need when it's just the tip of my finger that hurts.
Exactly.
So that was pretty frustrating for me, but I shot it anyways, and I don't know. I did pretty mediocre, but there's always this year, so.
Right on, man.
Maybe try to keep from getting screwed up, right?
Well, I'm going to see you next weekend at the Lead Farm.
Yeah,
that'll
that's
be
gonna
fun.
Be a good match.
Yeah, we're gonna have
boys
fun.
Do a good job.
Yeah, they really do, man. Every event that I've ever shot there since they started holding them there has just been they just do a really good job. It's always really well run, well organized. They feed you really well, and I just like the Muns. They're cool folks.
Yeah, good dudes.
Yeah, and it's nice to have it close to home. So close enough, but. Man, I'm really glad. We've been talking about doing this for a long time.
Yeah. A couple years, I think.
Yeah, we finally just were able to make schedules align. And dude, if you ever want to come over and practice, just you know what's out there now. So hit me up.
Awesome. Yeah, you got a great range. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so
a lot of wind.
Well, this time of year it is, and then I mean, in the summertime we'll go out there and it'll be all thermic. So it'll be nothing, and then you'll have a dust devil come through, right, and tear shit up, and then it'll be dead. And then it'll switch and it'll come from that direction. So it's challenging. The only time that there's no wind out there is winter.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. Like the dead of winter, you can go out there. It'll be calm. You can hear a pin drop out there. But that's it. Every other time of year, it's usually honking.
Yep.
In one way, form or another. So, well, thanks, dude. Thanks for taking the time to sit down and have a conversation. This is a lot of fun. I think there's definitely more stuff that we can talk about that takes a little bit deeper dive down the rabbit hole of some of the other things. But because I want to have you back on the show in the future.
We've had some conversations about some pretty deep rabbit holes.
From deep rabbit holes, I like it. Yeah, it's good. It's it broadens the horizons.
Yeah.
So no, I appreciate you coming out, man. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate
dude.
it.